Welcome to the Allured Life podcast. My name is Katie Christ, and in 2016, I wrote down in a journal that I was going to become unapologetically my best self. And my purpose is to help women do the same, whether that's overcoming body image issues, creating next level inner confidence, or up-leveling our emotional intelligence and sense of worth. I believe that by investing in and developing who we are, we can exponentially transform the world we live in. My mission is to create power and influence in the hands of women. These are conversations for those ready to rise. This is the Allured Life podcast. Let's go all in. Hello, 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 and welcome to the Allured Life podcast. I'm your host, Katie Chris Youngdahl. So welcome to what this podcast is going to be about, is talking about halftime. It is halftime right now in 2023. Halftime, at least for me. If you are very, very, very specific, halftime of the year will be July 1st. But I'm getting ahead of the game. I'm gonna win this halftime and make sure I am getting everything in that I want to be contemplating and journaling and pivoting with and planning around with. Welcome to halftime. So, okay, what is this, Katie? This is the halfway mark of the year. So right now, as this recording will come out, will be June, it'll be June 6th, is that Tuesday. We're in month 6. We're in June. We've had January, February, March, April, May. Now we're June. So 6 months. So we're a little less than 6 months through, but we're at the halfway part. How you doing? Let's check in. What I want to be doing right now with this halftime point is to really re-energize, bring the energetics that are so easily founded at New Year's. So easily. I'm doing this again for myself. And so if you want to join with me. So I want to kind of go over, this podcast will just be going over a couple of things that I've been contemplating and thinking about. And truly, I've kind of I create some, I've been trying to, I'm going to be real and raw with this one of just like, okay, what's going well, what's working for me and what's not working for me right now. Because one of the biggest things at the beginning of January, I went through this process of really being intentional and really planning the year. I actually went through my entire process that I did it through Invested, the Resolution Rebellion, a program that I had that was about, I think it was 9 modules. So 9 days of just kind of like 9 days of looking back at 2022, finding the memories that I made and really integrating that and figuring out, okay, what were the things that I didn't do that I said that I wanted to do, or kind of my failures, and extracting the learned lessons from that. And so starting with 2023, all I had was the memories that I had, the beautiful moments that took my breath away. And then I had golden nuggets of lessons where, okay, if I know this, let's integrate this. I had this emotional response to these moments. I kind of extracted the lesson from that. So instead of just carrying this memory of pain or this memory of guilt or this memory of disappointment in myself, like take that and be like, okay, there's a strong emotion here, Katie. And with emotions, we remember things more, right? We remember the highs and we remember the lows. But instead of just remembering kind of this whole situation of the low, I was like, let's reframe it a little bit and let's grab that. What's the lesson? And carrying that into 2023. And then I planned the entire year. And my plan was to stick to that plan for the entire year. The plan was there and it didn't work because of one of the things that I will talk about in this podcast. But this is where it's halftime, baby. It's halftime. And there's an energetics of And this is where so I'm a daughter of a football coach. We actually fun news, my dad is going so he was at Wisconsin, and now he, is taking a new kind of a fun role, and in Austin, Texas. So, what is it, Hookem? I think it's Texas, yeah. I will learn this one, I will learn this one. Um, no, so and he's actually it's a really cool okay, that's a story for another time, but, um, what I love about leadership and that I'm learning from so many different really influential men and women is just the power of always being a protege, always being a protege, and always learning, always leveling up. And so, I'm really proud of my dad for taking a role where he's kind of stepping into the protege and learning and deepening. And it'll be a really exciting time. But that is not the conversation of this podcast. Uh, however, this is where the practice of being a protege, of being a student is so important in our life. And this is where having kind of set times to ask ourselves like, "Hey, what is it that you learned? What is it that you want to be learning? What is it that you've done? What is it that you want to be doing? Where are you going? Where have you gone before?" is so, so critical because of a couple of things. So let's go back to this concept of a halftime. And again, why I brought up being a coach's daughter, who knows if this was actually true. It might just be my ego being like, I knew it. There were certain games watching for my entire life. There were certain games where we would be down at half. And I would see how players come out of the locker room the next quarter, the next half. And I could tell, I was like, we're not gonna win. Like we're not gonna we are losing bad. Like it is already written in how the players are standing on the sidelines. History is all it's been written. This loss has already been written. It's already set in stone. You can see how they're standing. You can see how they're talking to each other. You could tell how quickly the players run in and out of the huddle, in and out on the field, how fast they go when a player is down, how fast they go to pick them up. You can tell. So there's some certain games that I just remember. It was more so I could tell. I was like, they're done. They've already said that they're gonna lose, even though we have the rest of the third quarter to play, the rest of the fourth quarter to play, even though we have the entire fourth quarter. And I was like, why? Why have they already chosen that? You can see it in them. It's because a lot of the times what we do so much is we take the proof of what's in front of us. The proof of looking at the score and you see it. And you're like, we're already down 3 touchdowns, 2 touchdowns, 4 touchdowns, 3 points. It didn't matter how much we were down. You could see it a lot. It was easier for players to hold the faith that they could come back when it was down by 3 points, down by a touchdown. But down by 3 touchdowns, you start to lose the faith. You start to see the evidence out there that's telling you you're going to lose. You're not enough. But yet, because we've seen those games where it's like, yep, they're down, the game's over, we're fine. I get on Ryan all the time of like he just will shut off. He's a huge Vikings fan, Minnesota Vikings fan, and he'll get so pissed if you're down two touchdowns. I'm like, Ryan, you have seen games where your team is up by 2 touchdowns and you're still nervous that you're going to lose because you've seen other teams come back. So why is it what when you're behind, when you're 2 touchdowns behind, you're just like, "Nope, we're done. We're done." But when you're up 2 touchdowns, you're like, "Oh, we gotta I don't know if we're gonna keep this going." And we're constantly in this fear of not winning. But why can't we hold the belief like we're gonna do it? We are going to do it because we've seen teams, they've come back. 2 touchdowns down, they're back. 3 touchdowns down, they're back. And that's where we do this not just in sports, not just in football, we do this in life. How many times have we gotten to a certain point where we're like, "Oh my gosh, it's been 6 months," and especially right now, I'm gonna talk to my women who are all about body confidence and weight loss and feeling into their body and wanting to lose weight, but struggling so darn. I know these months are hard. I know these months when we're shedding, when we're wearing less articles of clothing, you can't hide underneath baggy sweaters and leggings. I know these months are hard because you're like, "Oh my gosh, this is another year where I said I wanted to feel confident in a bikini and I don't." If you're anything like me, gosh, the May 1st date, you're like, "Oh my gosh, this is the time." How many years have I said that I wanna feel confident in a strapless shirt, showing my arms? You're like, "Oh my gosh." It's like the how we get so excited about New Year's resolution goals. It's almost like the summer months are like a check-in where we're like, "Ah, I don't want this check-in. How we doing? Oh my gosh." And so but I want to encourage you right now to not go into your halftime seeing I'm behind, whatever you're behind may look like right now. It's so different for every single woman out there, right? Whatever you've been focusing on. It could look like not feeling like you've lost the weight for the summer months. It could feel like not like having the relationship or not going on dates or it could feel like not knocking out of the ballpark, to be honest, too, for my high achievers. It could be like, "Oh my gosh, I had so many things that I wanna be doing, but I just let, like, life go back to the way it used to be." I feel like right now I'm still in catch up right now. I feel like I'm just running, running, running. I'm exhausted. So thank goodness for these months of summer where everyone's kinda just, like, going on vacation. I need the vacation. We feel like that, right? But instead of right now, what I want us to do is to really take this halftime mark and be intentional of how you're talking to yourself at halftime. So that when you come out of halftime, you're in the energetics of I am going to win. It doesn't matter how far I feel like I'm losing, no matter how many touchdowns, how many points, how many pounds, how many things that I need to be doing. It doesn't matter how far I may feel like I'm behind or two, if you're just like, "I'm just up just a little bit, not enough to, like, feel like I'm really, really crushing this year. I'm only up by, like, a point or so. I could still lose." I want us to go out of this halftime knowing that you got this, having the faith that you've got this, that you are going to win and you're gonna surpass every expectation that you've ever had, that other people have ever had. Like, that's the power that I want us to be. That's my intention for my halftime. So if you wanna join me with my intention, do it. Share it, grab it. And so these are I'll kind of just get you through some of the questions that I've been asking myself. And if you do wanna go deeper with me on this, um, I've decided to just open up one-on-one coaching spots for the remainder of the year of 2023. So just doing one-on-one, no more I launched a few programs. Not gonna do that as of now. So one-on-one coaching. If you'd like to join me with one-on-one coaching, I open up 2 different programs. One is called the Go All In program. So that's a 3-month of just really focusing on like one one big thing that you want to master, that you want to be like, I want to go all in on this one specific area of my life. A lot of that in the past has been for me health, working with women on weight loss, working on with women about body image and confidence. So if that's something that you want to be focusing on, that is my jam. But I've also kind of graduated into feminine energetics, really mastering kind of your calendar and feeling like going deeper into self-worth, of confidence, of feeling like you are becoming the best version of you. So that's another aspect. Or what I'm excited for is a year-long one-on-one container called Iconic. So that's actually my new context for the remainder of the year. So when I was going through, so in Invested, the Resolution Rebellion, a big thing that we focus on is just choosing a context for the year. And so I've talked about context a ton, so I'm not going to go too much into this, but a context is just kind of what holds all your goals, all your ambitions, everything that you want in the year, instead of just saying, this is I have a goal for this, a goal for that, a goal for that. And then we kind of go about our weeks and our days where sometimes it's like, I want to lose weight, but then I also want to go on date nights with my husband. Those two things, if they're not in a context that's the same, they can kind of combat each other. Because you're like, I want to be the healthiest version of myself, but my husband wants to enjoy an entire bottle of wine and like eat chocolate cake off my body while I'm eating chocolate cake too. I don't know. Like, it can conflict, right? um, Ryan's never eaten chocolate cake off my body, but maybe we'll add that. Just kidding. I hope my mom doesn't listen to this podcast. So what we want, so I talked about this in Resolution Rebellion, is just creating a context that can hold everything. And so at the beginning of 2023, my context was I had two. It was to be a boss and kind of create more time for contemplation. Again, if you've heard me talk about kind of these three different energetic fields, it's the badass, the goddess, and the boss. The badass being masculine energy, the goddess being feminine energy, and the boss being kind of this a mixture of the two, this beautiful masculine and feminine energy coming in together. I was in 2022, I was missing a lot of the boss in aspect of things. I was more in masculine and feminine, and I was just ping-ponging through life. I was like, go, 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 exhausted, let's lean back, bored, okay, go, 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 ping pong, ping pong, ping pong. So I need a lot more boss time. And then my other one was to create a masterpiece. I was looking at kind of what was going on. This was going to be my first year of marriage with Ryan, and I really wanted to create a masterpiece where, with the programs that I've created, with the podcast, with my one-on-one coaching experiences and programs and mentorship, with just the memories that I wanted to create. I really wanted to be super, super, super intentional. And I loved the word masterpiece because I felt like it really encapsulated this idea of loving my life, this idea of being intentional with my life. So I loved it. But going through, and this is where it's halftime is so pivotal and critical and needed, is I was looking back and I was almost checking in with myself. Okay, how are these contexts holding me? Am I thinking about these contexts daily? Daily. And the answer was no. Oops. The answer was no. Which is, this is good to know, right? I could sit here and I could not tell you this because it's like, well, Katie, why aren't you practicing what you're preaching? I am, because I learned the lesson of, okay, masterpiece and boss, it's those two words are not doing it for you, Katie. And the only thing that I wish that I did, my biggest regret is I wish I would have caught this earlier on. I wish I would have caught it earlier on. But I didn't. Because I wasn't in, and this is again a couple of some of my failures that I did, is I changed up my calendaring system, um, to where I was using it's I won't name what it was called, but I put my whole calendaring system, my schedule online, and I didn't like it. But I felt like there was a learning curve for me, so that was one of the reasons. But because of that, I lost kind of some traction of contemplate scheduled contemplation time. I had it on my calendar to do the first of every single month. I had it on my calendar to do a scheduled audit of how the last month went. But by looking at my year, I didn't do it. Ugh. So why? So much of us, so much, we don't want to look at why we didn't follow through. We don't want to look at our failures of just saying, okay, what's going on here? Why, like, Katie, gosh darn it, like, you know better. You know you do so much better when you actually sit and think. And when you sit and you contemplate. And when you sit and you just take an audit of, okay, what went well, what didn't go well, and then you sit and you plan. And your mental capacity is so much better when you plan. Why didn't you plan? And so, like, the biggest thing is just to here's the one thing that I want going back to looking at the halftime. We rely on a lot of the times proof of where we're at. We want to look at the score. And we want to take that score as either validation that we're winning, or it's also saying, okay, you are losing too. And it's in us to sit, like, we almost want to, it's so hard for us to sit there in our life and to know where we're currently at. And so much of this, think of so much. We feel like we're never enough. Look at Ryan for a sports team. This is crazy that I'm like, I never thought, truly, I never thought that I'd be talking to women and using a lot of sports analogies. Because I wanted to do it different. I was like, the sports analogy thing, that's too masculine. We're not doing it right. But think about, so he's watching his team. And he'll turn off the TV if they're down 2 touchdowns. Like, we're losing, we're done. Nope. But if they're up 2 touchdowns, he's still worried that they're not gonna win. Like, I've seen it enough that we're gonna lose. I've seen us, like, fall back so many times. So many times I've seen us fail. And we do this with our life. We do this so much. We take what we've not done and we say that is fact. That's what's happened in the past. Katie, you did not do your May audit, your February audit. You haven't done this, Katie. You haven't lost the weight. You haven't looked back. You look at all your failures of what you haven't done this past 6 months, this past five months. You haven't done this. You haven't created your context. Hasn't been a thing. You've been scrolling too much. You what are some other things that I've been gotten mad at myself? You haven't been sleeping through the night on certain nights. You've been drinking on the weekends when you said that, or the weekdays when you said you wanted to cut back. You have been having too much ice cream. You a ton, so much. We do this and then we stop there and then we say, okay, I need to do better. But that's doing it wrong. That's coming out onto the second half and saying, I gotta stop, like, not catching these passes. Stop not catching these passes. Stop dropping the ball. Stop dropping the ball. Stop dropping the ball. If you're a quarterback, you're like, oh my gosh, like, I gotta stop, like, throwing it over their heads. Stop throwing it over their heads. Stop throwing it over their heads. Stop throwing it over their heads. And then what are you gonna do when that's your focus? What's the energy coming out? If you are coming out of the tunnel and you are just thinking of, okay, I can't do this. I'm bad at this. I should be doing more of this. Like, why can I not be doing this? Okay, okay, stop, like, stop thinking about that, we're just gonna focus on the like, we're gonna be better at this, we're gonna be better at this, but, like, stop dropping the ball. Oh my gosh, I'm dropping the ball. Stop dropping the ball. That's when you see on the sidelines that the players are just, like, in their heads. They're not talking to each other, and they're not pumping each other up. They're standing in a certain way where they know that they have lost. And we do this when we don't look at what we did wrong or what we didn't accomplish, and we do not extract the lessons from it. That's the biggest if I can tell you, that's the one thing that's been so hard for me to get, and I want you to get it faster. 'Cause there's a couple of questions that really did stump me a little bit when I was trying to kind of create this new plan or this a little bit of a pivot or just kind of a course correct during my halftime. And the biggest thing was just saying what worked and what didn't work, and what do I wanna do better? What worked, what didn't work, and what do I wanna do moving forward? Those were kind of the 3. I journal a lot. This is where we'll kinda start with you guys. What worked? What didn't work? What do I wanna do moving forward? The one question that stumped me so much that I, like, did not wanna sit there and journal about, because I was like, It's okay, it's, like, fine," is what worked? And I was like, why am I wanting to just go I wanted to go straight towards, "What do I wanna do? What do I wanna do now?" And I was sitting there, I was like, "Why is this an urge right now to just go straight into what do I wanna do now?" It's because I know 1, I know, right? We all know what worked, what didn't work, what we didn't wanna do now. A lot of times I know that, and I just wanna go. I just wanna go. Let's hit the ground running, let's go. But for me specifically, but I know for some like, because 'cause I've talked to clients about this as well too, it's like we go and then we do the same thing over and over and over again. The same mistakes, because 'cause we're going way too fast. Slow it down to speed up. So I sat and I was like, "I need to know, what am I doing well? What has worked?" Because that then, in my mind, on my scoreboard, I can raise the score for myself. When the world looks from the outside and I am not as far as I wanted to be with whatever goal, if it's weight loss, if it's if you are in business, if it's you having wanting to have these relationships of your dreams, whatever it looks like for you. I know I go so broad when I talk about ambitions, but it really is so subjective to each and every one of your heart's desires. So whatever you're looking at, and if you feel like you're behind, we got to raise that score. We got to raise the belief that you are like farther than you got to create social proof that you are doing things right. Because when we can see that, then we can be like, okay, the things that have been working, let's just level up on them. So what has worked for, and these are the categories that I really looked at, is for my health. And I kind of categorized it for my physical health, my emotional health, my relationships. And so I categorized that for my love relationship with Ryan, my family, and my friends, and then my work. So looking at my mission in life. Which within work, then you can kind of, if you want to categorize or like have create subcategories too, it could be your mission, your drive, and also your finances as well too. I just kind of categorize all that together. So again, I looked at my physical health, my mental and emotional health, my relationships, where it was my love, so partner, so Ryan, family, and then friends. And then I looked at my work. So each one asking myself, what has worked in the past 6 months? What are the memories that I made? Remember when I talked about, okay, we just want to be carrying memories and lessons. So what are the memories that I made? Create this level of I'm winning because I've done all these amazing, beautiful things. I am winning. Even if the scoreboard says so otherwise, we have to kind of create this proof in yourself that you can do it. And the only way to do that is your belief of what you're capable of doing, that you can do it. That's the only, there is nothing that I can ever say to you that'll make you believe in you more than what you actually believe about yourself. I can tell you that you can do anything. I can tell you that if you do X, Y, and Z, you can lose the weight. I can tell you if you do X, Y, and Z, you can create the influence. If you do X, Y, and Z, you will have the self-worth that you want. If you do X, Y, and Z. But there is no X, Y, and Z unless you actually say, I am it. I believe I can do this. I believe I am worthy. That is my truth. My truth is to be in this health. My truth is that I am that person. There is nothing that I could ever say to you unless you actually believe it to be true. Truth is the strongest frequency out there. Truth is this, like, and this is where, and I'm going to do a podcast, probably the next one, to be honest, about this, about confidence and being the one and owning what we're capable of doing. We have to find like, what is our truth that we believe in? Not what are the affirmations that we're saying, not what we're trying to be, not what we're trying to like find self or validation from other people to be is true. What is our truth that we do not need validation from anybody else? What's our truth? And that's the only thing that'll make us believe, to be honest. You think about, Ryan and I just listened to a podcast that talked about kind of there were multiple it's neither whatever it's about. The biggest thing was there was a trial. It's like one of those murder things. And what makes a trial happen and what makes a jury go through a conviction relies on what is the truth. Prove the truth. What's your truth? And what do you need to do to prove that truth without a reasonable doubt? That'll be on next week's podcast. But the reason why I'm talking about it today is that we go straight into, what do I want to do? What do I want to do? What do I want to do? Without backing up our ability of the truth of what we're capable of doing. We just go straight into, we rely on the momentum of beginning. That beginning part of like, I can do it. Okay, it's the start. I'm going to start on Monday. This is day one. We got this. The easiest day is always day one. We can do this, and we're going to keep going. The easiest day is always day one. Because you have that momentum of it being the start, being new. But a lot of the time, a lot of the things that we're striving to do, it's not new. It's stuff we've been doing for year after year after year after year. But we say this is going to be the day that we're going to start. So then we get all excited. And then if that, a week goes by, 2 weeks go by, a month goes by if you're lucky and you're like, I'm still going. And then you stop. And then you go back. It's because we don't sit there and we almost let ourselves always go back to bottom. Go back to bottom. Go back to how we used to be. Go back. And then we jump up from the bottom. We jump up from the bottom and then we go back down to the bottom. And we jump up, we grab some air from the bottom and then we go back down to the depth. Instead of like becoming really strong swimmers to keep going. And this is where, but just by saying, okay, what has worked? we build up our social proof of what has worked. What have we actually accomplished? And then instead of just coming back to ground zero and then starting from there, we have a new baseline of, okay, cool. The last 5 months, 6 months, this is what I've gotten really dang good at. Then our baseline is further than where it was at the beginning of this year. When we actually take the time to say, what has worked? But we don't feel like this is an important step. I knew I didn't think that this was an important step, but this is almost the most important step because it's creating these building blocks where we can start to compound our years instead of just going right back to new year. What's my like bottom? Okay. New year, back at the bottom. New year, back at the bottom. Trying to lose weight, trying to like stop drinking Diet Cokes, trying to eat better, trying to get this raise, trying to, I don't know, all these things. A lot, again, so much of mine is about weight loss and health. Year after year. So take the time to ask yourself and look back and reflect what went well in these areas of my life. What has worked? So I create a new baseline to jump from. So I start to compound it. And then the next question is like, what hasn't worked? Which that's a fun one. But the fun part is to just really say, okay, what hasn't worked? And just then ask the question, what is the lesson from this? What's the lesson? Really extracting that out. And so for me, and I mentioned this at the beginning of the podcast, was a big thing that didn't work for me is I tried to take the calendar that I created in. So Resolution Rebellion, we did this whole kind of making a list of 111 list of kind of aspirations and dreams of what we wanted to accomplish in 2023. And then from that, we reverse engineered it and we planned it all out. We planned it all out. And what I thought I could do, and I was playing around with this, but I wanted to put my calendar online with AI. So it's artificial intelligence where it's like I would put it in, and if I didn't accomplish it, if I didn't click it, it would move it to a different part of my schedule. I felt so cool. I was like, oh my gosh, I have like artificial intelligence as my little like I have like a little assistant. But that didn't work. It did not work for me. So I gave myself about I think I tried it for 2 months, so it was, um, March and April was when I tried that, and it didn't work, and I definitely from there just got off on my whole kind of planning system and following through. So that was a big thing of what I wanted to kind of reset, with this halftime was going back to paper and pen and sticky notes. So if any for those that are watching, I'll show you kind of what my calendar looks like. I have a big and I got this from Melanie Ann Layer. Her program, I think it's called Resolution Revolution. Yeah, similar to mine. Um, I got this planning of where she takes a big calendar and then she used sticky notes instead of writing things out on her calendar. Um, so then if she doesn't follow through with it, you can move them instead of scratching things out, which I absolutely love. And when you accomplish whatever you have on that day specifically, you just take it off of your calendar. And so the goal is to have a nice white calendar by the end of the month. And then if there is a day that you either moved your sticky note or you didn't move it and you didn't get to it, then you get to ask the question, why didn't I follow through? What went on here? And you get to extract the lesson from that. So that was another again, my context for 2023 was a masterpiece and a boss. But because and not just because, but I strayed away from this calendaring, the scheduling aspect of things, and did the more online aspect. I missed the monthly introspection days that I had planned out because I didn't have it on a calendar to, like, remind myself of, "Hey, Kitty, your calendar isn't clean. What's going on here?" Um, so that was something that didn't go well for me. Um, Here, I'll just list up yeah, so another thing that didn't go according to plan is the context of a masterpiece. Looking at that in hindsight a little bit, I wasn't thinking about it every single day. Oops. It was so again, I'm gonna give myself a little bit of just like, that's okay. And just my biggest regret is I didn't catch it earlier, but I'm catching it at the halftime. So I've changed my context to iconic. So being iconic. So I know I listed off my one-on-one program for 12 months. It's called Iconic. And that was after I created the context of the next 6 months. This is going to be an iconic 6 months. This is going to be something where I am different. I do it differently. I'm her. I'm the one who's going to create an iconic 2023. Iconic. And I love the word. I feel like it has power. I feel like it has intentionality. I feel like it holds masterpiece that I had at the beginning of this year that just didn't fit as well as I wanted it to. I feel like it holds the three energetic types of being a badass, of being a boss, of being a goddess. Like she's iconic. And just focusing on that as my context. And that's how I'm planning the rest of my 2023 through the lens of what does it look like to be iconic? What does my health look like if I create iconic level of health? What does my emotional health look like? If she's iconic, what does her emotional health look like? That's an iconic relationship with me and Ryan. I'm excited. So that's the biggest thing for me was looking at of and that's the biggest thing for us all. I want everybody to know that if you're not following through on whatever you say that you want to be focusing on, if you feel time, if you feel like you're playing catch up, what context are you coming from? What's the context? What's your energy? Is it coming from a need for validation, a need for like doing things and getting things off your to-do list for what? Why? Why? If you're not working out the way that you want to be doing, if you're not eating the right, like the way that you say that you want to be doing it, why? What's the context of how you're walking? What's the context of how you are behaving, of who you are being? What is the context that you are walking with? And if you don't know the answer, you're walking shut off. Like you're not living right now. You're not conscious. That's it. If you don't know what context that you're walking with right now, you are unconscious. You're unconscious. It's like this is another thing. I hope my mother does not listen to this podcast. A perfect example. Like right now, we sometimes we'll be watching a movie with my mom or we're watching a show and she will fall asleep. And she'll just be like, and then one of us will make a noise or something loud will happen on the movie. And then she'll be like, okay, what happened? What happened? And a lot of times if she's watching a show, she'll rewind it of like, okay, oh, I missed it. What's going on? Okay, gotta rewind it. Okay. And then she'll fall asleep again. Or we were actually watching the menu. It was me, Ryan, my dad, and my mom. My mom fell asleep through the movie, and then she woke up at the end of the movie. And I won't give away any spoilers. It's a great movie you can watch on HBO. But she just saw one character and she's like, they're the killer. And it was like totally, totally wrong. She missed the movie and got the ending completely wrong. Or she is watching the show and she gets to one point, she keeps rewinding it. She keeps rewinding the show and going back and then falling asleep. And you wake up and you're like, what just happened? What's going on? Oh, I gotta go do it again. Rewind, play, fall asleep again. Go to the same point, rewind, play. Like she does this. It's hilarious. But that's what we're doing right now. If you're walking with if you're walking through life and if you don't know what your context is, you're not awake right now. You're either letting your whole movie life go throughout like the entire plot, and then you wake up at the end and you see something and you're like, well, she's a killer. You got it wrong. You're seeing your lens of life the wrong way. You're not failing right now. You're not failing. You're not the murderer. Or you're watching a show of your life and you keep falling asleep and you don't see the little movements that you've been making. You don't see the plot happening, and then you wake up, you're like, "Oh, I don't know how I got here, so let's rewind and go back. Start again. Start over. It's Monday again. Let's start the exercise routine then. Oh, let's jump back. Okay, we're gonna really focus on our sleep, but that's a lot of it is wellness, right? A lot of our focus is a lot with wellness. That's the one thing because it's for us that we drop sometimes. But our personal goals of like, I have a client who, oh, I love this. I love her. I hope she's listening to this. Just take a bath. Do something for yourself that makes you feel good. Go shopping. Like we just go back. We go into our subconscious and we don't know what's happening in our life. And then we either wake up and we say, "Oh, I didn't do it right. I'm the murderer. She's the murderer." Ah, and we totally miss the entire plot of the movie. We gotta rewatch the movie, or we gotta rewind it back to the beginning or back to the part that we do remember that we were conscious for. And that's the power of taking a halftime, of just looking and simply just saying, okay, what has worked? What hasn't worked? And from the what hasn't worked, please take the lessons. Take the lessons. Extract the lessons and then create a plan moving forward with your memories of you winning and the lessons moving forward. And that's how you create an iconic next level. Next 6 months. Iconic. That's what I'm doing. That's what I'm really, really doing and going all in on it. That's it. Simple. Yet a lot of the times we don't actually sit there and do the things that matter the most, like asking ourselves what has worked, what hasn't, extract the lessons from what hasn't worked, and then create a plan moving forward. We don't do that because we don't. If you were like me, remember when I said I didn't want to answer the question of what has worked and what hasn't worked. All I wanted to do was what I wanted to. What's the plan now? What am I doing now? Because I was relying on the circumstantial feeling of starting anew, circumstantial power, versus really, really honing in on my own personal power and to back up my personal power with backing up my own wins, almost like just creating a fake scoreboard in my mind to be like, you are winning, Katie, even if like the outside world is telling you you're losing real bad. It's like, no, I'm winning. I've got this, and these are the lessons that I'm taking with it moving forward. Backing myself up, creating a really strong personal power so then I can walk from there. Walk with the knowing, walk with the truth of who I know I am. Because I'm not my failures. Who I am, though, are my memories of what the badass, iconic things I've already done. I'm that. I will claim that. And I will claim my lessons learned as well, too. That's who I'm walking with. That's my truth. That's iconic. So, guys, go all in. It's your halftime. We're going to freaking win. We're winning. Okay, I love you. I hope some moment this week takes your breath away, and I will see you next week. Hey there. Thank you so much for listening. My goal is to help as many women listening, and if this episode supported you in any way, the very best way to show your appreciation is by simply screenshotting this episode and sharing on your social media or with your friends. Or even better, drop a review on whatever platform you are listening on. Don't forget, if you are looking for any additional support, you can always reach me on Instagram at Katie Crest. See you back here next week.